Welcome to Revenge Report. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe for more. Let's dive in. The moment I stepped onto that plane, I knew something was off. The seat Rachel had picked for me, business class, right next to her, was gone. I stood there, ticket in hand, blinking at the flight attendant like maybe she'd made a mistake. Seat 28A, she said without looking up. Aisle back of the plane. Back. By the bathroom. I hadn't even buckled in before Rachel turned around in her perfectly tailored blazer, flashing her bright white smile to the cabin like she was on stage. Guess some folks just don't belong in first, she said, loud enough for the rows around us to hear. A few people chuckled. I didn't respond. Didn't even make eye contact. Just shoved my bag under the seat, sat down, and stared straight ahead. The vinyl seat squeaked under me. My knees were already touching the tray table. That was Rachel. Always knew how to take a shot and make it sound like a joke. My name's Sandra Newton. I'm 44, retired wildfire operations chief out of Montana. I've dropped into flaming canyons in the middle of the night, rappelled into blackouts with zero visibility, lost friends, saved others. I didn't trade firestorms for paper pushing. I retired because my back gave out after 25 years on the line. Every scar on me's earned. Quick note. Before listening, share which city or country you're watching from. Rachel's been climbing a different ladder. She's a high-profile wellness coach now. Talks about mindful success and strategic femininity at conferences full of rich women trying to cry their way to clarity. Her face is on billboards in LA, and her Instagram's got more followers than the entire Missoula Fire Department combined. A month ago, she invited me on a healing retreat in New York. Said it was just the two of us, sisters reconnecting. I was skeptical, but I said yes. I don't know why. Maybe I wanted to believe she meant it. But this was classic Rachel. I watched her sip champagne in her cushy leather seat 24 rows ahead. Her long blonde hair was styled like a newscaster, and she kept laughing at something the man beside her was saying. She didn't turn around again. She didn't have to. She'd already made her point. I folded my arms and leaned back. The air smelled like overcooked coffee and disinfectant. My shoulder brushed against the cold metal of the bathroom door every time someone walked past. I stared out the window, watched the wing flex as we climbed. Clouds blurred by in slow waves. My hands itched for the feel of a hose line. A real fight, not this quiet erasure. I didn't cry, didn't huff, didn't give her the show, but make no mistake. I felt it. The sting, the slight, the same old cut, just deeper this time. The plane leveled off. The seatbelt sign dinged off. I closed my eyes, exhaled slow, and waited for the next punch to land. I heard it before I felt it. A low, heavy rumble outside, too steady to be turbulence, too loud to be thunder. The kind of sound that made my spine straighten before my brain caught up. I turned toward the window. Two Sikorsky choppers, black and glinting, were flanking our plane. Big boys, rescue birds. They were riding close, way too close for comfort. Nose to nose with our wing like they were part of a military escort. My fingers tightened around the armrest. People started noticing. A baby somewhere up front started crying. Someone yelped. Phones came up fast, screens tilted toward the windows, recording, snapping pictures. The energy shifted sharp like a room full of dogs just heard a car backfire. The woman across the aisle from me gasped, clutching her husband's arm. "Why are there helicopters?" Rachel stood up halfway from her seat, turned around, loud and theatrical. "Is this a hijacking?" she said. But she wasn't looking at the choppers. She was looking at me. That was the tell. Her voice was all nerves, but her eyes weren't scanning the sky. They were locked on my face. That's when my stomach dropped. Something was coming. Not danger, something else. The seatbelt light dinged back on, and the pilot's voice came through the speakers, calm but not casual. "This is your captain speaking. Everyone, please remain seated. Do not be alarmed. What you're seeing is a recognition escort. This is not an emergency." People went quiet. A few scattered murmurs, a phone dropping to the floor. My ears buzzed as the words kept coming. "This escort is in place to honor a special passenger on board. Seat 28A. Call sign, WILDCAT." The name hit like a dropped axe. I didn't move. My throat went tight, and my hands stayed locked on the seat. You could hear the silence hit the cabin like pressure dropping. Every head turned, every single one. Even the flight attendants froze mid-stride, holding trays of half-poured ginger ale. Rachel turned around again, slower this time. Her mouth hung slightly open. Her skin had gone sheet white under all that peach-tone foundation. She looked like she'd just seen a ghost. The captain's voice clicked off. The Sikorskys outside dipped their noses down in unison. Our old way of saying respect. It wasn't flashy. It wasn't performative. It was real. My stomach nodded. I wanted to sink into the seat and disappear, but I didn't. I didn't smile, didn't wave. I just gave a small nod, like I used to after a good drop, back when the wind carried smoke and not applause. The guy next to me leaned over. "Wildcat?" he asked, his tone shifting from confusion to awe. I nodded again. "You serious?" he whispered. "You're the Wildcat? From the fire lines?" A row behind him, a teenage boy said, "No way." I read about her. Glacier National, wasn't that her? Rachel had started walking down the aisle now. Slow, stiff. Her heels made little clicks on the carpet. She didn't say anything as she passed each row, just kept glancing toward me like she was trying to solve a math problem she thought she already knew the answer to. She finally reached my row, knelt down next to my seat like I was in a damn hospital bed. "You didn't tell me," she whispered. I stared out the window. One of the choppers held position, its side door open, crew visible. One of them raised a fist in the air, not for the cameras, for me. Rachel spoke again. "You never said anything about an escort." I turned my head slowly. "You never asked." Her lips parted like she had a comeback, but nothing came out. Her eyes darted from the window to the passengers who were still watching, still recording, then back to me. "I thought," she started, but I shook my head. "This wasn't for you," I said. "Or for them?" She blinked fast. "But why now? Why this flight?" I looked her dead in the eyes. "Because someone nominated me, probably someone who still remembers what mattered. And because that's how they do it. No warning, just a nod, quiet recognition." I leaned back in my seat. The rotors from the escort hummed like a low heartbeat. The kid across the aisle started clapping. One pair of hands, then a few more. Then the whole damn plane erupted. Not a standing ovation, just that steady, rolling clap of strangers who finally understood what they were sitting next to. Rachel didn't clap. She just crouched there, hands still gripping the armrest like it grounded her. "I didn't know," she said. I stared forward, jaw tight. Number U didn't want to. She stood slowly, eyes glassy now, and returned to her seat without another word. I didn't follow her, didn't chase the moment. I just sat there in seat 28A, 2 rows from the toilet, shoulder to shoulder with strangers, while the sky itself made room for me. I stayed silent the rest of the flight. So did Rachel. She never once looked back again. Didn't matter. That moment was already burned in. Hers, mine, everybody's. But if you want to understand how we got here, you have to go back. Way back. Rachel was the clean one. The polished one. Every school photo. Straight teeth, soft smile, bows that matched the dress. She had this fake little giggle adults loved. Got her out of everything. Me? I was the one in cargo shorts and scraped up knees, running through the backyard with a garden hose pretending it was a live line. Dirt under my nails, pockets full of pocket knives and matches, always one step from grounded. Dad saw it early, said I had grit. He didn't say it like a compliment, more like a diagnosis. Still, he took me along when he volunteered for burn control weekends. Taught me how to scout fuel breaks, how to read wind, how to shut my mouth and move when fire was coming. Rachel stayed home, painted her nails, practiced flute. Our mom made sure she always had white dresses, and I always had warnings. Don't break that. Don't track mud. Don't embarrass us. It was always the same story. Rachel was smart. I was strong. Rachel was polite. I was useful. They liked having one of each. Never said it out loud, but they played it up like we were opposite sides of a decorative coin. I left for wildfire services at 19. Didn't ask for permission. Took my GED and packed my bag the same week. Dad gave me a one-arm hug on the porch. Mom cried. Rachel? Rachel didn't come to the send-off. I heard later she called it barbaric. Like I was running off to join a gang. The first time they mentioned me in church, after my rookie season, the pastor stood up and asked everyone to pray for our brave Sandra, fighting flames for the Lord. The whole place clapped. Rachel told Mom it was a little dramatic. Years passed. I stopped caring. Rachel went east for college, some fancy wellness institute with a name that sounded like a vitamin. She got her certification in whatever new age self-help trend was popular that year, then rebranded herself 5 times until she landed on corporate wellness strategist. That stuck. I watched from a distance as she built her image. Flowy outfits, soft focus lighting, testimonials from CEOs talking about how breathwork saved their marriages. I wasn't bitter. Not at first. Until I saw that post. She was standing barefoot on a beach in a silk robe, hands over her heart. The caption read, "You don't need danger to prove you're alive. You just need intention." I didn't even need to ask. That was for me. Because by then, she'd already made it clear what she thought of what I did. When I made lieutenant, no message. When I was promoted to ops chief, she emailed mom and asked if that meant I'd finally be safe now. Safe. Like I'd spent 2 decades being reckless instead of doing a job half this country pretends doesn't exist until their vacation homes catch fire. Every one of her wins came with a dig, whether she said it out loud or not. She posted curated moments, champagne on yachts, yoga at sunrise, 10-minute clips from her empathy masterclass. Meanwhile, I was out there digging trenches to stop crown fires from swallowing entire towns. The split between us wasn't just about lifestyle, it was about story. She told hers everywhere, spoke on podcasts, got quoted in wellness magazines, had this perfect narrative about healing your inner child and setting boundaries. But my story, it wasn't soft, it wasn't cute, it was singed fingers, melted boots, sleep deprivation and broken radios and funerals in dusty town halls, and nobody wants to click on that. So Rachel told hers louder, and quieter in the spaces between, she made sure mine never fully landed. Because if I got seen, if people understood what I actually did, then her version of strength would start to look a little less shiny. And that's something she couldn't allow. Not then, not now. But the sky? The sky told a different version. It got worse after the canyon. We were working a drop zone outside Salmon, Idaho. Terrain so steep it felt like walking on the edge of a blade. Winds shifted without warning, and 2 rookies got caught in a rock chute when the fire jumped the ridge. Command called it too risky. Said stand down, hold position. I didn't. I pulled rank, grabbed a line, and went in. I brought them both out alive. 3 cracked ribs, a busted helmet, and a briefing room full of brass waiting to eat me alive. I didn't flinch. I laid it out clear. I saw a path, I took it, and I'd do it again. The review cleared me, said my actions were outside protocol but within ethical justification. Sounds neat in paperwork, sounds messier in headlines. The local news ran it first. Loose cannon saves crew, costs trust. The headline spread like gasoline on dry brush. Then Rachel chimed in, posted a filtered photo of her sipping tea on a balcony. Captioned it, "Real courage comes with boundaries. No names, no details." She didn't have to. Everybody who mattered knew what it meant. I stared at that post for 10 minutes, didn't comment, didn't text. I just sat on the edge of my bunk that night, hands still stiff from climbing out of that canyon, wondering when she started enjoying it, taking little swings at me under the cover of wellness. I kept working, kept my head down, let the noise die, but the next hit didn't come from the press. It came from home. A neighbor called me on a Tuesday afternoon, said, "Sandra, I'm sorry about your dad." I stood there holding the phone like I'd misheard. He'd passed 3 weeks earlier. Stroke, quick and quiet. The funeral? Over. The service? Done. Rachel had organized it all. I called her. Straight to voicemail. I left a message. She called back that night, voice syrupy and cold. "You were off the grid," she said. "I didn't know how to reach you." "I was in Kalispell," I said. 45 minutes away." She paused. "I assumed you were on assignment." "You assumed wrong." She got defensive. Said she didn't want to stress me during a crisis, that she made a judgment call, that it was complicated. It wasn't complicated. It was deliberate. I hung up. The next day, I put on my uniform and drove out to the cemetery. I stood by Dad's grave alone. No music, no eulogy. Just pine needles, hard dirt, and the sound of wind through the trees. I stood there until my back ached and my legs went numb. Then I knelt down, pressed my hand to the cold stone, and whispered, "I showed up, Dad." That was the moment something snapped clean. Not loud, not dramatic, just final. I saw Rachel for what she was. Not some lost sister hoping for connection. Not some misguided perfectionist. She was calculated. Every step of her success, she'd built on clean edits, removing the messy parts, like me, like Dad, like anyone who didn't fit her narrative. She didn't forget to call. She didn't misjudge. She erased. And I let her. But that was the last time. After that graveside visit, I stopped reaching out. Rachel didn't call, didn't text. We drifted in silence for months. Then, out of nowhere, an email hit my inbox with a branded signature line and a slick PDF attached. Subject: Exciting opportunity, need my wildcat. She wanted me to speak at her company's annual summit. The pitch was all fluff. Resilience meets mindfulness. Sisters on stage, powerful duality. At the bottom, in fine print, your presence would mean so much for optics. That word, optics. Not value, not respect. Just what it would look like to have me there, war stories and all. Next to her in a white jumpsuit with a headset mic. I wrote back one sentence. Not interested. She called that night. Why are you being like this? I'm not a prop, Rachel. Oh my God, that's so dramatic. Don't use me to sell enlightenment. You're bitter. I hung up. Another few months passed. Then came a different kind of message. Text this time. No hashtags, no attachments. Let's do a simple girls' trip. No work, just us. My treat. Please say yes. I stared at that message longer than I should have. Something about it felt different. Stripped down. No performance. And God help me, some small part of me, the same part that still kept our childhood photo in a drawer, wanted to believe she meant it. So I said yes. We picked a weekend. She booked the flights. I packed light. Told myself this was a reset. No expectations, no digs, just sisters. I got to the gate first, checked in at the kiosk, printed my boarding pass. Seat 28A, again. I stared at it for a long second. Walked to the counter to confirm. Yep, main cabin, rear section. Rachel? Up front in business. I didn't call her out. I just waited. She showed up 20 minutes later, sunglasses on, wheeling a pale pink suitcase like she was walking into a spa. She gave me a quick hug, smelled like eucalyptus and effort. Then she saw the ticket in my hand. Oh, right, she said with that tight little smile. I figured you'd want quiet. The front is kind of chaotic. I nodded once. Makes sense. She beamed like we were fine. Like we were equals in this weird little charade. I followed her down the jet bridge, her heels clicking like punctuation marks. At the door, she veered left. I turned right, back toward 28A. It wasn't rage I felt. It wasn't shock either. It was that slow, grinding confirmation, the one that scrapes against bone, the one that says she didn't slip. She chose. She chose to move my seat, chose to step over every signal I'd sent, chose to polish the lie again, and I let her. But this time, I saw it clear. It wasn't just a seat change. It was another erasure, just wrapped in silk and smiles. Rachel hadn't looked back since takeoff. Not once. She was all laughs and easy charm up there, sipping her drink, adjusting her neck pillow, acting like the trip was exactly what she'd promised. Girls' weekend. Reset. Like she hadn't shoved me to the back of the plane. Again. Then the rumble hit, and the sky changed. Two Sikorskis flanked the plane, blades slicing clouds in unison. I knew the model before I even leaned toward the window. I could have ID'd the sound in my sleep. Rescue birds, our kind of escort. Passengers panicked, phones went up. The air shifted, tight and electric. Rachel stood and played it loud. Is this a hijacking? But her eyes locked on me, not the windows, like she already knew who this was for. Then the captain's voice broke through the noise, calm and low. Remain seated. This is a recognition escort for a special passenger. Seat 28. A call sign. WILDCAT. The world stopped. No movement. No breath. Every head turned. Rachel's face drained. She stared at me like I'd just torn off a mask and revealed something unrecognizable. Her mouth moved, but no sound came out. Then she walked, heel by heel, clicking slowly down the aisle like she didn't want to believe what she was doing. When she reached me, she didn't ask. She just sat. She was quiet a moment, stared out the window at the choppers flying just above wing level. Then, like she was speaking to herself, you saved someone. Not a question. I kept my eyes forward. 3 someones. Her head turned. What happened? Glacier National. Last winter. She blinked like she was trying to place it. You were retired? I was visiting a friend at the base. A call came in, team trapped under collapsing terrain, too far from the road. Weather had the other units grounded. And you went? They were dying. I didn't wait for clearance, just grabbed a bird and went up. She leaned back in her seat. That was you? I nodded. She swallowed hard. They didn't say your name on the news, just said a former crew leader. I turned my head toward her. Yeah, because I asked them not to. Her mouth tightened. Why wouldn't you tell me? I didn't hesitate. Because you didn't ask. She sat with that, didn't argue, didn't deflect, just folded her hands in her lap and stared at them like they were foreign objects. Outside, one of the choppers dipped its nose again. That silent salute we all knew, respect without words. Everyone on the plane could feel it. The clapping started soft, one row, then two. Then the whole cabin joined in, hands coming together, not for drama, just acknowledgement. Rachel didn't clap. She turned toward me again, eyes glassy now. I didn't know, she whispered. No, I said. You didn't care to know. She blinked fast, but the tears still broke. She looked small, like the wind had gone out of her, all that poise crumbling in front of strangers. Her voice cracked. I thought I was protecting you from chaos. I thought you were protecting your image, I cut in. I was never the one who needed saving. She looked down. I'm sorry. I didn't nod, didn't pat her hand, just watched the mountains below roll by, cold and jagged and real. I never needed applause, I said, but I also wasn't going to stay erased. She wiped her face quickly, embarrassed. This wasn't supposed to happen. I shrugged. Wasn't supposed to be in the canyon that day either, but here we are. The rotors outside drummed steady. The birds held position. Someone near the front shouted, "Thank you for your service." I didn't respond. Rachel looked at me like she wanted to say something else, but she didn't. She just sat there and cried. Quiet, no spotlight, no pose. Just truth. Finally landing. By the time we landed, the internet had already picked it up. Some teenager 3 rows up had caught the whole thing on their phone. Choppers outside, the captain's voice over the intercom, Rachel walking back with that stunned look like someone had rearranged her whole world mid-flight. It took less than 24 hours to go viral. Seat 28, A, who is WILDCAT? Real hero, gets sky salute on commercial flight. The woman who saved 3 and never told a soul. I didn't say a damn thing. No interviews, no statements. I ignored the emails, the voicemail from some producer in LA. Even my old crew texted a group thread, all caps. Why didn't you tell us? I just replied, didn't matter if you already knew. Rachel didn't call, but a week later an email came through. No subject line, just her name in the inbox and a timestamp, 2:03 a.m. I almost deleted it without reading, but curiosity's a stubborn thing. It wasn't short. She went long. 4 full paragraphs, no branding, no slogans, just her voice stripped down, the one I barely remembered hearing. She said she was sorry, said she saw things now she never let herself see before, talked about our childhood, about Dad, about how she'd shaped her life around control because chaos scared the hell out of her. She said she didn't erase me out of hate, just out of fear, that I reminded her of what she wasn't brave enough to be. She didn't ask for anything, not a response, not a reunion, just ended it with, I know I can't go back and undo it, but I wanted you to know I remember everything now, and I regret the hell out of it. I didn't reply. I printed it instead, folded it once, tucked it into the back of a folder I keep in my office. The tab reads, unspoken. Forgiveness doesn't mean re-entry. It doesn't mean the gates swing open and we braid each other's hair on a weekend retreat. It just means I stopped letting her steer the story. She doesn't own my silence anymore. A few weeks after the flight, I walked into a local training center just outside Helena. Small outfit, tight budget, full of tough young women trying to make it through their first season on the line. The director asked what I was looking for. Nothing, I said. Just want to help the next ones hold the line. They gave me a red instructor vest and a clipboard. By the end of the week, half the girls were calling me Chief. I didn't correct them. I showed them how to cut a brake line with a Pulaski faster than any of them thought possible. How to read wind the old school way, by spitting into it. How to speak up, stand ground, and not wait for someone to hand you permission. This was my new mission. Not glory, not awards. Just making sure the next Wildcat doesn't need a damn chopper to be seen. A few months after I started volunteering, I got an invite in the mail. Real envelope, real stamp. Public Safety Leadership Conference, Helena Civic Center. Theme, Bravery Beyond the Badge. Guest panel, Resilience, Recovery, and Representation. Line 2, Keynote Introductions by Rachel Newton. I stared at it for a while, no email follow-up, no text, just that printed card. I didn't RSVP, but I showed up. I wore jeans and a clean black shirt. Nothing flashy. The only thing pressed was my name stitched onto a vest. Newton. That was enough. The room was full. State officials, department heads, a few survivors, a couple dozen fresh-faced recruits with wide eyes and not enough scars yet. When Rachel walked out, she looked different. Still polished, still poised, but stripped of the stagey glow she used to chase like a spotlight. She didn't lead with a joke, didn't set herself up for applause. She just said, I want to introduce someone who taught me what courage really looks like. My sister, Sandra Newton, former chief of wildfire operations, Region 8. She didn't look at me when she said it, didn't try to read my face. She just spoke the truth and let it land. I walked up to the stage, nodded once, said my piece, kept it short. After the panel, someone in the crowd, young guy, maybe early 20s, walked up and asked, could I get a photo with you? I almost said no out of habit, but something in his eyes stopped me. I said, sure. He handed his phone to his friend, stood next to me like he didn't know what to do with his hands. I threw a thumbs up. He grinned like a kid. That was it. When I got home that night, the house was quiet. I hung my vest by the door and went to the closet, opened the wooden box on the top shelf. My old badge sat inside, same as always, silver, scuffed at the edges, sharp lettering dulled from years of fireline grit. I picked it up, ran my thumb across the ridge. Still felt solid, still felt like mine, not for display, not for clapping crowds or hashtags, just mine. I held it for a minute longer, then placed it back in the box, closed the lid. I didn't need to wear it, I just needed to know it was still there. A week after the conference, I was back at the training center. Red vest on, clipboard under one arm, boots in the dirt. We were running drills through a mock-up terrain line, trying to simulate tight canyon burn conditions with smoke canisters and heat packs. One of the newer girls, Kayla, stood out. Fast hands, sharp eye, but too hesitant with command calls. She'd freeze for half a second when pressure hit, waiting for confirmation. That hesitation could get someone killed. I called her over after a line break drill. Her face was red, chest heaving, but her jaw was set tight like she'd already decided to beat herself up before I got the first word out. You got the brains, I said. Now stop waiting for permission. She gave a quick nod, then looked up. Can I ask you something? I shrugged. You just did. She grinned, nervous. You were in Glacier, right? That rescue last year. 3 smoke jumpers trapped. Helicopters grounded. Someone disobeyed command and went in anyway. I didn't answer. She kept going. They say it was a retired chief, woman. Didn't name names, but I heard it was you. I didn't confirm it. I just said, don't wait for applause. Know your reasons? She didn't blink. They said you were no one special. I tilted my head. That's about right. She looked me dead in the eye. But you are. That one hit different, not because I needed it, because she meant it. No cameras, no clapping. Just her, standing in the dust, telling the truth. I exhaled slow. You want to be a leader? She nodded. Then remember this. When the moment hits, it won't feel like a movie. There won't be music. Nobody's gonna come hand you a script. It'll just be pressure and instinct. You act or you don't. She swallowed hard. I want to act. Then start now. We went back to drills. She led the next one clean, called it sharp, no flinch. When the other girls followed her in without second-guessing, I stepped back and watched. Not because I was proud, because I knew what it looked like when someone took flight for the first time. Not flashy, not loud, but real and unstoppable. It was raining the morning I knew it was time. No sirens, no calls. Just steady drops against the roof, the kind that made you move slower, breathe deeper. I made coffee, stood by the window for a while, then walked back to the closet. Top shelf, far right. The wooden box hadn't moved. I took it down, sat on the edge of the bed, and opened it. There it was, my old badge. Cold, silver, solid. I picked it up, felt the familiar weight settle in my hand like it had never left. Ran my thumb over the edges, slow. The numbers were worn, the surface dulled from years of sweat, smoke, and ash. Every nick in that metal had a name, a place, a cost. I held it for a minute, then flipped it over and placed it back, face down. Not to bury it, to let it rest. I closed the box and stood up. No ceremony, no goodbye speech, just a quiet nod to something that carried me farther than most people ever saw. I walked back to the window. Storm clouds moved slow across the sky, thick, gray, unbothered. The kind of sky that made you think too long if you let it. But I didn't linger. I didn't miss the fire. Didn't miss the noise or the bruises or the feeling of chasing something that never ended. I had peace now, and I'd earned every inch of it. Some people retired to escape. I stepped back because I'd done what I came to do. I left when I still had something to give, and now I was done giving it to people who couldn't hold it. My name is Sandra Newton. I sat in seat 28A, back near the bathroom, where they thought I belonged. But the sky told a different story. And for once, I believed it.